Hello guys, welcome back. This is the game on board 5 between Jully Mutisya, Equity, and Joyce Nyaruai playing for KCB. So at the moment, the scores are 2.5 to 1.5, with board 1 being a draw, then board 2 taken by Equity, by Patrick Kauma, board 3 taken by Joseph Methu against Victor Ngani, that's for KCB. And on board 4, Jackson had this crazy sacrifice. The rook takes on e6, and despite the attack that he had, he misplayed the idea a little bit, and he was worse in the end, and it was taken by Equity. So at the moment it's 2.5 to 1.5, and this is the game between Jully Mutisya and Joyce Nyaruai. So to put it into further context, Jully is not Jully rather, but Equity are, I think if the game ends in a draw, KCB wins the league. So if Joyce Nyaruai wins this game and the game ends up winning the game ends up going 2.5 2.5, it's a win for KCB in the grand scheme of things. So further context is that Equity is okay. This was, I think, the first season that Equity came back into the league, and it's a sort of a competition, or maybe a battle of bragging rights between KCB and Equity. I mean, Equity just came back from the ashes, and they're now just threatening to take the league away from KCB on the last possible moment. And KCB had been having like shaky results through the weekend. They were beaten by, I think, Nacha, or was it Nakuru? I think it was Nacha. Nacha beat them on Saturday, and on Sunday morning they were playing against Elite, and Elite was really, KCB was really on the ropes in that game. They still won, but it wasn't as clean as you'd expect them to. So here comes the game between Jully Mutisya and Joyce Nyaruai, and this game is possibly the one that decides who wins the league. Okay, it's yeah, I think it was this game, because even after the result of this game, they were already celebrating. The people who won the league, they were already celebrating after the end of this game, despite the fact that this game ended before other games. I think before one other game was had completed. But yeah, the importance of this game is insurmountable. It's just crazy, and let's go ahead and look at what happened. So Jully played d4. Joyce Nyaruai replied with e5 and bishop to f4. I mean, nothing, really nothing else was expected from Jully. But it's the thing where it's, yes, you can say that she only plays one opening, but again, she's really strong with it. So bishop to f4, I'm playing the London, and now Joyce Nyaruai plays knight to f6, pawn to e3, pawn to c5, pawn to c3, queen to b6, and now queen to b3 from Jully. Pawn to c4, queen comes back to c2. I think the first surprise of the position, but knight to c6, because normally I don't. If I'm the one playing this system against the London, you play something like bishop to f5, and now prepare that queen to b6, and after queen to b3, after I push and trade, after I push, she has to trade, because you can't really come back to c2, because this square is being dominated by the bishop on f5. So this is the system that I go to if I play against the opening, if I play against the London in this way. So anyway, queen went back to c2, knight was developed to c6, knight to d2, pawn to bishop to d7, and now pawn to e4, breaking in the center. So knight takes, pawn takes, and now bishop takes on c4. Pawn to f5, supporting the pawn in the center, still playable, and now bishop to e3. Okay, so there is a lot of tension in this game. There is a lot. I mean, it's the fate of, I don't want to say the universe, but it's really crazy that this game could decide the the outcome of the league. And some of the moves that were played were really questionable, but you can't really blame them because the game, I mean, there's a lot of tension on the board. You can't really play with peace of mind. I mean, if you remember, like the world championship match, a lot was on the line, and that's why uh, you could see so many blunders and so many mistakes. Because now Jully played bishop to e3, and in my opinion, I don't really see how bishop to e3 is a good move. Maybe you're trying to prepare pawn to d5, but then you're giving black the leeway of playing her queen to c7, and really preparing the f4 pawn break, and you're giving black a lot of play in this position. So Nyaruai immediately played queen to c7, it's pretty obvious, and now Jully played queen to c2, queen to c1, stopping f4. But there's better ways of doing it, like maybe knight to e2 just stops it and helps to develop. You can castle anytime soon, and you won't have a pawn structure that's as crazy as what you had in the game. So anyway, Jully played queen to c1, and now Nyaruai played pawn to e6. A better move is maybe pawn to e5, just try and chip away at the center and destroy this grip that white has in the center, and maybe go from there. So instead she played pawn to e6. Bishop was played back to e2. Again, knight to e2 is better than bishop to e2, but you can't really force them because there's a lot riding on this game. So Nyaruai played bishop to d6, pawn to g3 was played, and now castle. Uh, Jully plays knight to h3, trying to develop it in some way, maybe throw it to f4. And Nyaruai now plays knight to e6, knight to e7, pardon, trying to remaneuver it, maybe place it on d5. It looks like a really good piece on d5, just threatening to capture the bishop and have the bishop pair advantage over white. And now Jully plays knight to f4. To me, this wasn't really a good move because, again, you have to really calculate and you really have to see what happens after pawn to g5 after playing knight to e4. Because if you decide to go like somewhere like knight to h5 or knight to h3 or knight to g3, it's the same thing that is going to happen because we're going to push the pawn to f4, try and break in the center, and if you try to move away, maybe bishop to d2, even pawn to e3 is very strong, because if you take, we don't really take back, but we push again our pawn to f3, and it's going to be a very excruciating death for white in this position. So anyway, again, playing pawn to g5 is really committal, and Nyaruai chose to play pawn to b5 instead and go for the minority attack. Pawn to g5 is a strong move, but then it's very committal. If it backfires, you're really going to suffer as black. So instead she went for pawn to b5, trying to go for the minority attack, and immediately Jully played pawn to h4, just stopping the g5 idea altogether, which I think was a very solid and a very bright move. And from this position, you now see that white is starting to get back into the game. Slowly but surely, white is going to untangle in the position that she was in, and she's going to actually have a lot of play in this position, because when the momentum shifts, it really shifts massively. So rook a to c8 is played, and now queen to d2, queen to c7, queen to b7 rather, just aiding and supporting the before pawn break, and now rook to c1. And I'm starting to see a pattern with this idea of stopping the minority attack. So that rook was played to d8, castles, and now pawn to b4 and pawn to c4, just getting out of the attack and maybe starting your own. Knight to f6 was played, and this position is another critical moment in the game. You really have to calculate after playing knight to c6 rather. You have to calculate the pawn breaks, because my thinking is when I play knight to c6, I'm immediately afraid of any pawn breaks, maybe d5, maybe c5, and I think this was an inaccuracy on Nyaruai's part. She could have played something else. Maybe she thought that if the pawn breaks with d5, she can jump with the knight into to e5, but then it's still very much unplayable. You can always like win a piece, I guess, because let's look at the pawn breaks. So if we play our pawn to d5, you can't really jump in, because then we take here and we're attacking both of your bishops at the same time. So if you take the pawn, you just take back with the knight. And yes, you always have ideas of knight to f3 check, but we have our bishop defending the square. We just, exchange the knight for the bishop, and I think we have a better position as white. So the other pawn break which was played in the game. Okay, so if you play also pawn to d5 and she plays something like pawn to e5, I think it's still lost. I think for black in this position, it's clearly lost. So you can't really play such positions in this way, at least. And those, I think knight to c6 was the biggest concession in this game. And from this point, it was really elementary how white exploited the game. So she played the other pawn break, pawn to c5, as advertised. The bishop was traded on f4 for the knight, and Nyaruai played her bishop back to e8. Jully came in with a bishop on d6, bishop to f7, pawn to f3, and again after the capture, it's becoming really hard for black to play. The position is at the brink of being lost for black. Queen to b5 was played, just getting away of the pin, and now pawn to d5, the other pawn break. So rook takes on d6, which I think was also miscalculated. Just, the position is now, I think, at the brink. It's now complete. This is a winning advantage for white. So Jully captured back, and after the trade, she played rook f to d1, just preparing to capture back the pawn. King to h8 was played. After bishop takes, bishop to h5, and rook to e1, Joyce Nyaruai resigned the game. So it was this position that actually won the league for KCB. I took a video of their celebration, but at that time we were recording some blitz games that were being played outside the playing hall. So after I curate the video and maybe post the entire video itself, you're going to see some celebrations that were happening at this time. Jully just got out of the room, and at this point, after Jully won the game, I think it was 3.5 to 1.5, and with 5 players on each team, if you just get 3 points, you've already won. So it was a very good game from Jully, and she was actually on the ropes during the start of the game, but then she just untangled, and a brilliant execution from her. So this was the game that probably won Equity the league, and it was an amazing season from them. It was just beautiful what they did through the season. I mean, they relied on some luck from Nacha maybe catching up to KCB, but then it's incredible what they've achieved. They just come back to the season and won it in beautiful, spectacular fashion, and against the team that was leading throughout the season. So yeah, this was the game, and yeah, amazing as it is, Equity won the league. So uh, okay, everyone likes to see the underdog win the league. No one wants to see the same team just win over and over again. Despite this bias that almost everyone had, including me, it's really great to appreciate what both teams have done, and it's a great motivation for all the other teams and everything that they've done. So the league ended. I think Westlands Chess Club, Daystar, and KU were relegated back to the Super League. And from the Super League, we had, I think, Marvin's Tacticians, we had University of Nairobi, and Victoria Chess Club from Kisumu, who are promoted to the Premier League. So can't wait for next season. This was the game. I hope you have an amazing rest of your week, and don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe.